So today we have a 2016 Toyota RAV4. It's here because the right front, passenger front door, does not lock and unlock. Nothing happens over there from either switch, from any switch. So we're going to have a quick look at the wiring through the door pillar, because that's a common failure area for most vehicles with power doors, power locks and windows in the doors. And if that looks fine, then we're going to look at the schematic. So if you pull the boot out of the door itself, you can see the wiring harness in here. There's like 20 wires in here, 15-20 wires. So gently tug on each one of the wires to see if there's a break, because they tend to break up in this area in here. I don't see anything wrong, so we're going to get a diagram for this thing. So here is the service information for wiring schematics. Now it says there's a production date change, so before October 15 and after October 15. And this one's 0416, so that would be this one, door lock control here. So let's see. So it's using door lock relays. Are those? No, those are separate relays. I'm going to find the actual door itself that's at fault. Front door lock with motor assembly. Left hand. So front door lock with motor assembly, right hand. So this is it here. So we're basically looking for a red wire and a black wire by the looks of it, and it just reverses polarity to make the lock go the other way. So there's a micro switch in it inside the door motor. I don't think that would have anything to do with it, and it does show a connector that's probably under the behind the A-pillar on the passenger side. So I'm going to print off these diagrams because that's going to be easier, because there's several pages. So the passenger side front door lock is in parallel with the two rear door locks, and they work. So looking at these circuits, it's the same two circuits. These last two lines on the schematic go on these two here, and these two circuits work, and they come from the actual lock and unlock relay. The switches are simply an input to this main body ECU, and the switches I didn't even look at, so they're out of the question. If this unlock relay didn't work, it would lose all three door locks by the looks of it. Actually, it would lose all four, because the unlock relay controls the driver's door as well. Then there's a driver's door relay over here. Driver's door unlock, and door lock, and driver's door unlock. Regardless, I think the easiest thing to do is to pull the door panel off and check for actual power and ground at this latch assembly, because that's likely what it is. That's the easiest thing to do. So that's what we're going to do next. So remove that upper garnish molding by just prying it off. Remove the plastic trim behind the door handle here. It just clips, and there's a screw in there. Pry the window switch up. There's a bunch of clips on it that hold it in place. Just pry it up gently, and we'll see what's next. So basically remove this piece of trim by prying it up at the top, and it has a clip at the bottom that you don't want to break off, so don't pry the bottom out, pry the top part out and up to get that off. Then there are two large Phillips screws, which I've already removed, behind here. These ones here. And then it says there are like 9 clips that hold the door panel on, and it pulls straight off. So you don't have to lift it up by the looks of it. It might help to roll the window down, but I've got the switch unplugged, so I probably can't do that. So you have to pull pretty aggressively on these plastic panel clips. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. One of them stayed in here, so I'll have to remove that, put it back in the panel. Then the two cables can be disconnected from the back of the handle. The green cable goes on the bottom, the white cable goes on the top. I would imagine one's for the lock and one's for the actual latch. You don't want to mix them up. I'm assuming that these are the 4 wires that go to the latch, because that's kind of in the latch area. And I would assume it's these 2 black wires that are for the power lock. The 2 smaller wires were for the micro switch inside the lock. So I'm going to double check that on the schematic, and we're going to put a test light in parallel to this thing across these 2 black wires, and it should light, if the circuit is good, it should light a test light in both directions. So I've got a 912 bulb in a pigtail connected across those 2 black wires, and when I operate the lock switch, that's unlock, and that's lock. And of course the reason why it doesn't lock is because I have the key in the ignition, so it tries twice. It locks and then unlocks it. So we got power going to the latch, so we need a latch. Simple as that. I don't think there's anything else. There is another connector between here. That's why these 2 wires are black. They change color inside the door somewhere here, but that's kind of irrelevant. We're at the latch assembly right here, and it's not responding. And I think this bulb draws about 700 milliamps, so that should be similar to the load that's the latch requires to make it work. I'm going to order up a latch. So the parts information is asking me whether it's made in Japan or made in the United States. Well, looking at this one, manufactured by Toyota Motor, manufactured in Canada. And there's the build date, 0418 or 16, 0416. Also, the first character of the VIN is a 2, which typically designates that it's built in Canada. But the service parts literature says Japan or United States. So we'll maybe call the dealer and ask them. So here's what I mean by the parts information. It says built in Japan and except Japan built. Well, I guess that doesn't say United States. That says it's not Japan. So that would be the one theoretically. DLA 796. Built in Japan except Japan. And down here is a Dorman built in USA. Okay, built in Japan. Well, this one here from Standard Motor Products retails for almost $600. And this one says it applies to both, built in USA, built in Japan. I think I better call the dealer. Neither of these is stocked anywhere locally by the looks of it. Let's try this one. Check more locations. $600 for a door latch. Well, you know all that money you're saving on gas? And of course they got a part number but no stock anywhere in Canada. So call the dealer. So I did call the dealer, and the parts retails for $503 at the dealership, so it's kind of a no-brainer then to buy an aftermarket one. But I thought I'd check just to see if anybody had stock on it. So I'm looking at Napa's website. Left, Japan built, rear right, USA built, rear right, smart entry, Japan built, Japan built, Japan built. Let's go to the next list. This information site doesn't allow me to sort. Japan built, left front, left rear, right rear, right front, except Japan built. $740. Wow. Just for the hell of it, we'll see if there's any stock anywhere. Not looking too promising. Store did not answer. So their network is down or something. Vancouver. Well, we'll get right on that. All right, well, I got to wait for the customer's authorization to order the part from the dealer. But that's the way we'll likely go on this thing if he decides to fix it. So given the fact that this is a $500 component, I wanted to be double sure. So I decided I would check the circuit with something that draws a little bit more current. This headlight draws about 3 amps, so you can see the headlight lights in both directions. Now, I did get fooled several months ago on a Suzuki, well, it was basically a GM. It would light a test light, but it wouldn't light a headlight, and it turned out to be a faulty switch. But this doesn't actually use conventional switches, it uses a relay. And the relay is powering up the circuit, so we're going to order up a latch assembly. I'm going to leave the door apart until I get authorization to go ahead. He doesn't need the vehicle, I don't think. So to remove this door latch, remove the 3 fasteners in the back of the door here. I think they're T27 or something like that screws. And then loosen off this bolt here that goes and holds the bottom of the window track. Actually remove it. Then this assembly then slides down and out of the link in the back for the door, outer door handle, and then turn it this way to pull it out through the opening here. It's actually not that hard to remove. I was considering taking it apart to see if I could see what was wrong with it, but it doesn't look like it comes apart all that easy. We might. What the hell. Take a picture of the yellow cable on the top and the blue cable on the bottom. I don't believe those cables are going to come with the latch assembly. They didn't show in the picture anyways. Well, it's definitely not meant to come apart. There's a little electric motor and gear that operates the electric lock. It's pristine inside, so something must have happened inside the electric motor. Wonder if we can take that little motor out. So there's the little electric motor. It just unplugs, and I've got battery power here, and if I put power and ground to this thing, the motor runs. Yet in the unit it didn't run. Let's try reversing the polarity. And it's running here. So unless there's a problem with the connections on these 2 terminals here, I'm going to try putting this motor back in. So you can see the little electrical terminals, they just plug in. And this little gear just goes on the end of the shaft. There's actually a master spline on here, believe it or not. A little flat spline. One side's flat, so it only goes one way. Interesting. So I'm going to try putting power to it and try to hold these pieces together to see if it'll actually work. Let's reverse the polarity. Wow. This little gear jumped out. Let's reverse the polarity again. So that seems to work here. Oh, now it doesn't work again. I'm going to check continuity through this motor. I'm going to watch this power wire off the battery here. So I got the motor out again, and you can see that it runs. So it's almost as if the problem is just the connection in these 2 terminals here. They seem awful short. It just slides in like so. Now if we put power to one of these terminals and ground the opposite terminal, the motor should run either lock or unlock. I have to hold this gear down and hold this motor down. So that went that way. Now it should go the other way. But it doesn't go the other way. That's strange. Well, there's obviously something wrong right in these two terminals here on the way to this motor. Because the motor runs itself. If I take it out, it comes out quite easily. Just pries out of here. And it plugs into those two little spade terminals that go to the two large terminals here. This is not meant to come apart. But we're this far now, what the hell? Okay, we're going to try this again. No, it's not working. It works one time and then it doesn't work again. So there must be something wrong inside the motor. Yet if I take the motor out and put direct power to it, it runs. And I can't see nothing wrong with those terminals. Oh well, I got a new one coming. I just was curious. I like to see what's going on inside these things. Sometimes it's just a small problem and you can fix it. You can see how it works. That's either lock or unlock, and that's the other way. I thought maybe that terminal was too short, so I put a piece of plastic underneath it to push it up towards the motor more. I mean, that seems to plug in nice and solid, yet the motor doesn't run. No. Well, we learned how it works anyways. So I figured out what the problem is. The brushes in the motor are shot because if I run the motor, now you can see it's not even running. But if I have the motor running, I can stop it and it won't start again. And if I give it a spin, it'll go again. So there's either a connection problem in the motor or the brushes in the motor are shot. I shouldn't be able to stop it. So that's why it works sometimes and it doesn't. So all it really needs is this little electric motor, but you can't buy this motor, unfortunately. Similar to the ones inside the HVAC controllers. So it is definitely possible to get it back together. This blue cable goes on the bottom, and that's the lock and unlock. And this cable goes to the door handle. That opens and closes the latch. If I trip the latch with a screwdriver, you can see it opens from that handle. If I trip it again with a screwdriver, it opens from this lever here. So it's back together, but it's not going to work because it needs a new motor, which is a shame because it's $500 for this thing, and you could actually repair it if you had a part. But that's typical today. So we got the new actuator for this Toyota today. Here's the new part. So we have to transfer over the linkages, or the cables I should say. This bottom one, we undo the clip, pop it open, and the cable just pops out. Top one just pops out. Reinstall the cables and put it back in the door. So there's the door latch reinstalled, connected, plugged in, cables routed. Remember this little 6mm bolt here, you have to take that one out, move the window track inboard slightly to get the regulator around it, and then the rod from the outer door handle has to slip into the back of the track. Now I know it's working because if I lock it, because I have the key in the ignition, it unlocks. So we're good to go and put this back together again. It's basically just a reverse procedure. Pull this little clip out because we got to reuse this one clip. If they break, you'll have to buy new ones. So there's the door all reassembled, snaps together like Lego. Reconnect the switches. Door locks work, door handle works. I always like to try to make sure the latch releases before I close the door. So I always close the door with a screwdriver, like so, and then make sure that it releases from the inside or the outside, because worst case scenario, you may have got something hooked up incorrectly inside that latch. You close the door and you can't reopen it again. It's fine if you need to trip that latch, like so. So that's the end of this one. We'll call this one a wrap. Seems to be fixed. All the pieces are back together. Thanks for watching.